And welcome back to No Buts About It. It is Tuesday, February 14th. I am in a dorm room in Steubenville, Ohio. Chus is in his basement in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And this is the first ever video version of the podcast that'll be on YouTube. Yeah.
No way.
I've hosted one video. The trailer for the podcast is on YouTube. That's it. This will be the first ever video that's actually on YouTube.
That's cool, though. This is really cool. I mean, this is a big step for us because before, whenever we would record it, we were only on Spotify and like a lot of audio platforms and stuff. So we never had the opportunity to record the video. So it's always a really cool opportunity to step up every single way that we possibly can and that we hope to do this year. And one of them is to add video so that you can kind of see our faces if you don't already know what we look like. So that's pretty fun. So
furthermore, the YouTube did come in handy because I forgot to upload our Super Bowl predictions to Spotify. So if someone's like going to go back and be like, they're going to listen to that today and be like, oh yeah, these guys, they faked that. Nope, it's been on YouTube the entire time. The audio has been on YouTube. So if you're one of those people who thinks that, go over to YouTube and listen to it. And we guessed it on Thursday or Friday, whatever day that was. So we forgot to turn on echo cancellation for you.
Well, I have mine on, so maybe that'll help.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I can hear my own voice. That's okay. We'll live with it. Anyway, so two big things happened today. And the first one is that the Arizona Cardinals finally got their head coach. They finally got a guy who is willing to put up with Kyler Murray and thinks he has a plan. And it is Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. And I was getting scared. Lou Anarumo, the Bengals defensive coordinator, was one of the finalists for the job. And as much as I would love Lou to have a head coaching job, I think he'd do great. I think he's a great guy. I really wanted him back in Cincinnati, and he's coming back for a fifth season. The Cincinnati Bengals get both of their coordinators back. Brian Callahan is also coming back, the offensive coordinator. We're going to run it back. We're going back to the Super Bowl. We have unfinished business. They're expecting that Joe Burrow's contract extension is going to come out in maybe the next 2 weeks. We're getting business done over there in Cincinnati. Other big thing, like 2 days ago, Derek Carr said he wasn't going to accept any trades because he had a no-trade clause, so he could just be like, nope. And then they released him today. So Derek Carr's a free agent. I thought that was a smart move by Derek Carr. Because
I absolutely agree with that. I have talked about it with multiple other people other than right now, but like, yeah, everybody kind of agrees that, you know, if you're going to screw over, like if I was in his shoes, like I totally would have done the same thing. Like a lot of people have called it like, oh, kind of petty, but I'm like, yo, like he's been the starter for so long in Vegas or Oakland or I don't know when it changed over, if he was a part of that era. I definitely think he was, but, like he had been the starter for so long and they put so much trust in him and like they had a lot of highs and lows. Obviously they made it to the playoffs, not this year, but they made it last year against they had a really like close game against
they lost the Bengals.
Really close game against Cincinnati. And I mean they definitely had their ups and downs, but I mean by no means do I think Derek Carr's a bad quarterback. But if I was in his shoes, I definitely would have done this. Sorry, I'm simulating a Madden thing. I'm doing a whole Madden season, and Cincinnati just scored, and I just
even in the simulation we score.
Let's go. Kansas City at Cincinnati, but nonetheless, I would have probably done the same thing. I personally don't like see any fault with it. I mean, if they were literally Vegas was going to try to get whatever they could. And now Derek Carr was like, no, I'm not going to do that because you put a no trade clause in my contract and I can refuse to go anywhere. And it's kind of funny because now Vegas gets screwed out of that because they probably would have gotten something decent for him. I mean, you know, he's a quarterback that, you know, could do really well in a lot of schemes. You know, I know New Orleans is looking at him. And I mean, I know there's so many other teams that could potentially have him that he would work really well in the scheme. Maybe with different coach, different coordinators, different players even. It's a very big, you know, move, and I think Vegas was trying to get like a blockbuster deal like Denver tried to do,
Right.
but only vice versa is that they're giving Derek Carr rather than giving a bunch of draft picks away for Russell Wilson. Now we'll see. We'll see how Denver does. I mean, you can't give up on Russ yet. I don't think. I think you give him another chance, but
I don't think Derek Carr. I don't think he's elite, but I don't think Derek Carr was the issue in Las Vegas this year. Josh McDaniels does not have a great coaching history. I don't understand how you have the type of season that the Las Vegas Raiders had last year with your number one receiver getting arrested, a ton of political stuff with your head coach, and then your interim special teams coordinator head coach takes you to the playoffs, but your guy you hired can't. It just, I like what Derek Carr did. I mean, sure, it's petty, but, and he didn't, they have a 5.6 million salary cap hit and freed up 29.3 million by cutting him. So it's not like he's like screwing them over entirely. He's just saying like, hey, no, you're not, you basically told me at the last minute that you were cutting me if you couldn't trade me. I'm not letting you guys get benefit out of this. I like that idea. I think he did a smart thing. I think he'll be picked up. He went and had meetings with a couple teams. I think the Panthers were in there too, maybe. I'm sure he'll get picked up. He's going to be probably, if not the first, one of the first three quarterbacks off of the market.
Absolutely. Well, and it kind of reminds me, like with Derek Carr, kind of makes me think back on some of these other quarterbacks. I mean, I personally didn't think Ryan Tannehill was that like dominant in Miami, and then he went to Tennessee, and they had some very good seasons. And then Matt Stafford going from train wreck in Detroit to LA, where they won the Super Bowl, and then you have there was Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins was in Washington for a while, and he, for me, was always just like such an average quarterback. He went from like my backup quarterback in fantasy football to he went from my backup all the way to starting, because he did so well in Minnesota. Granted, it also depends on what wide receivers you have, but I feel like in a way this really could benefit Derek Carr, because I always said I was always kind of upset for Matt Stafford because I knew how talented he was. And not that Detroit doesn't have a talented team now, but at the time they did not have that talented of a team. And Matt Stafford was like literally killing himself to try to win games. And, I think he had a broken back, or he did something to his back like more than once. And I was like, dude, this guy is like killing himself for this team. And then he moves finally to LA, and granted he was hurt this year, but I think, 2022, I know, unfortunately for Cincinnati, it was unfortunate, but on a bright side, I'm very happy for Matt Stafford to get his ring, because he definitely deserved it. Joe Burrow will get his time.
He will. I got to rep my boys, though, while we're talking about them. So that's the big news really right now, other than, well, the next thing is kind of Super Bowl related. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl. Chus has to do the combine.
I do have to do the combine.
He picked the Eagles. I picked the Bengals. We were both wrong. What do you think about that holding penalty?
When I initially saw it, I kind of complained. I will not lie. I thought it was kind of petty in a way, because I thought that the referee should have just let it play out, because the way that Patrick Mahomes threw it, I don't think that if there was a holding penalty that Juju would have been able to make it to the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I guess you wouldn't really know because of the hold, but it didn't look like it was so much holding that, like, it held Juju back from catching the ball. It just kind of looked like he got kind of, like, held up a little bit, and then Juju, like, it looked like an overthrow. So I was kind of complaining because they threw the flag. It looked like they threw the flag after the play. So I was like, oh, what could that be? Because I was like, it's almost like after the play. So I was like, was it like a roughing the passer? Was it like a late holding call? Was it ineligible? Like I just was thinking of everything, and I was like, what was it? And then it turned out it was a hold, or it was like a pass interference or a holding or whatever it was. And I was like, where? And then I saw it, and I was like, that was tough. But I mean, the whoever did it, I don't know off the top of my head right this second, but he admitted that he said it was definitely a hold. I was hoping that the referees would kind of just not look at it. And I mean, that happens. I mean, you kind of sometimes hope for things like that, but I felt like late in the game, I feel like they should have kind of just let it play out. But because of that, the city of Philadelphia burnt down in a negative way. I don't know if it would have, I mean, I feel like Kansas City would have still won even if they didn't have the holding. I mean, I feel like the only difference between this and like how it could have played out differently was that Kansas City, overthrew because they were on third down, I believe, at that point, right?
I think so, yeah. It was going to be a fourth and long.
Yeah, so it would have been fourth and long. They probably would have kicked a field goal, and then the only difference would have been is that Jalen Hurts would have had to rally his boys to make it all the way back down the field. So, I mean, it was a big, crucial moment that happened for Philadelphia, and I feel like that's why they felt like it was snubbed because it was a tough call so late in the game that a lot of times like referees will just let the game play out rather than call those bad penalties at the end of the game. But I mean, like, obviously it definitely was a holding, but I still would have let it play out. And when I think about that, it's kind of contradicting how I have that opinion back in 2018 or 2019, maybe. It was the year that the Rams played the Saints in that one divisional game, and like the referee's clearly looking at the pass interference call. I feel like in that, like the referees were like, "Oh, just let them play," but I mean, like that was so bad. So like I can understand like what's going on. Like the referees are trying to make the plays, like trying to make the calls and stuff, but like the problem is like with referees, you're just never gonna have like a positive or a negative moment. I mean, like it's always just gonna be a neutral area where
you'll have lots of negative moments.
You will always have negative moments, and the reason I say positive is because sometimes it'll benefit the other team. I mean, granted, I do feel like in some aspects, like going back and watching a lot of the Chiefs games in the playoffs and stuff, I feel like there were definitely some questionable calls. And then seeing this final one, kind of really sealed the deal for me that they were kind of like, there was definitely some softer moments for the referees, I feel like, for Patty Mahomes. So I hope that this isn't a start of a new trend now that Tom Brady's retired, that Patrick Mahomes is the new Tom Brady, and that like the referees, like he'll get tapped on the shoulder and then they'll call like roughing the passer or something like that, because I've seen that many times for Tom Brady. So when like the next drive, like the opposite team, like the dude rails him and they don't call anything. So I'm hoping for them, or I'm hoping just for like the NFL's sake and for the entire fan bases that aren't Chiefs fans, that like we don't get bummy calls like that just because it's Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Roger Goodell doesn't care how you hit the quarterback. Did you see how he said that to Chris Jones?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, he said, I don't care how you hit the quarterback. I think what a lot of the players want is consistency during the game. Like, I know when this happened with Logan Wilson with the holding call, his big thing was like, you weren't calling that all game. Exactly. All game, you were letting us get away with that. And then when it mattered most, suddenly you were like, oh, yeah, we're going to follow this to the letter of the law. So, like, if you're going to let them get away with something in the first quarter, you got to let them get away with it in the fourth quarter. If you're going to be to the letter of the law in the first quarter, you've got to be letter to the law in the fourth quarter. That's just the way it goes. It should be league-wide, but it should definitely be – each game should be consistent.
Yeah, I agree. And also, like, kind of going off of the Super Bowl, I had a little note. What the hell was that field?
Oh,
it was a mess. They said it was something new, but it sucked. Like players were falling. So many players changed their cleats. Like it was awful. Like I don't know.
Jake Elliott almost twisted his ankle, the kicker for the Eagles.
I was like, it just was terrible. I was like, I don't know whose genius idea it was to play in Arizona with this weird field, but like it was like atrocious. I was like, literally, this game probably would have been so much more fun had all the players not looked like they were just like.
It was a slip and slide.
Yeah, it was just so disappointing, and the ending I feel like also made it so much more anticlimactic as well. So just because of but that's another thing.
I wonder if that was like the NFL like trying to be like, this is why turf is better, because I'm pretty sure Arizona's on grass.
I don't know though, because they said that it was. I don't know. I don't remember what they called it, but it was definitely not. I don't think it was turf. It definitely wasn't turf, but I thought they said it was some new grass because they didn't. Because like there's so many other fields that have grass and stuff, and like nobody has that bad of fields. I mean,
no, yeah,
like I've never seen any issue. I mean, granted, like I feel like Pittsburgh's field is kind of rough at moments, and their grass field as far as I know. Or maybe it's turf. I don't know. I mean, the birds were eating something off the ground. It might be grass. It might be. I think it's grass because they have like seed that like helps the grass grow.
They have birds. It's grass.
Well, it was the whole thing was that like during the Steelers season, and any Pittsburgh fan can like vouch for me for this. At points in time, and this also included Pitt, when the pigeons would come to play, the Steelers would like win. So like like for like 2 weeks in a row, like. Right before I think we played it was like the Bengals game, like when we played you guys, they didn't show up and we lost. But then there were like games in October, I think like with Tampa Bay, and like there was another game. There was a couple games where they would show up at like 1:00 games and stuff, and they would start eating, and then the Steelers would win, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's the birds," and like it was just this whole weird thing. But it was a lot of fun for that, and then it was the same thing with Pitt games because Pitt games would start at like noon. And or like 3:00, and like when you'd be at Pitt games, you know, obviously they play at Acrisure Stadium, which is the same place that Steelers play. Similar thing would happen, and like everyone was like, "Oh, when they come, Keaton Slovis cooks," even though like Keaton Slovis was like okay this year, but that's here nor there. But it was definitely think it was turf. But like the thing is like going back to the grass, I was like I feel like like when they were like talking about it, they were like, oh, it's this new improved grass or something. They called it something weird. Maybe I'm just like
it is not improved. It might be new. It's not improved.
I don't think it was improved at all. Like it was, and I think it kind of ruined moments because like there were times where like players would like catch a ball and then they would like try to juke out another player and then they would slip. And that was for both teams. Like that wasn't just for Eagles or Kansas City. Both teams were slipping, and it was just a really unfortunate circumstance. I mean, it was high scoring. It was a very fun game to watch, and with it being such a fun game, I feel like for me the ending was very anticlimactic. Just because I kind of would have wished that Kansas City would have kicked the field goal, like it would have been 4th and long without the holding penalty, because then it kind of would have been cool to see if like Kansas City could have stopped, the Eagles. You know, it just would have been a lot more interesting, a lot more fun of an ending, because then it would have been like, oh shoot, Kansas City just stopped Philadelphia, or oh shoot, Jalen Hurts just rallied his team to win it. So I feel like it just would have been a lot more fun. But I mean, obviously Andy Reid wanted his ring, and I mean anybody would have wanted their ring. So, and
Jalen Hurts ended up throwing that wounded duck at the end. But
yeah, that I have no idea what that throw was. Everyone was like, he's gonna bomb it, and then my friend Aaron, he was sitting next to me, and he plays baseball, and he was like, bro, I could have thrown that football further than him. And I was like, yeah, probably. So
it was very anticlimactic, especially from a guy who, I don't know, works out all the time.
Yeah.
Did you the best shot of the night though, most memeable shot of the night, which also shout out to Chris Stapleton for the national anthem. Best national anthem I've seen in a very long time. Nick Sirianni was crying over it. It was beautiful. Also, shout out to Rihanna for the halftime show. I'm not a huge Rihanna fan, but I thought she did very well. I personally just don't listen to that type of music. Want to just kind of say thank you. You did well.
I will say with the Rihanna thing, yeah, I feel like it was a lot of radio songs, so it was kind of like, oh shoot, I didn't know she made this type thing for me.
Right.
I also don't listen to a lot of Rihanna either. So,
but I was like, you know what? There was no political stuff about it. There was no like immorality in any way. She did it while pregnant, which
that was pretty impressive. That was very impressive.
Props to her. Very impressive. Shows women they can have a career while pregnant. I thought that was beautiful. Best shot of the night, though, goes to when they're interviewing Patrick Mahomes. And I don't know if you noticed this. Jackson, his brother, was dancing behind him on TikTok. Like,
that sucked. I was so mad that happened. I was like, all my friends were like, where's Jackson Mahomes? We haven't heard about him at all, because like he hadn't posted anything on TikTok. He hadn't done anything. And then next thing you know, I'm like, oh, there he is. And I was like, of course, there he is.
I hopped on his Instagram and I was like, I wonder what he was recording. And it was like I mean, this is why you're the social media guy, but it was some dance I'd never heard of, never seen, song I've never heard of. And I'm like, dude, you know how many people would kill to be on that stage right now with your brother and celebrate with him? And you're like over there doing like weird, I don't even know what it was. It was like something about smoking cigarettes with a girl or something. It was weird.
I'll have to look at it because I don't even know what the song was. No, I don't like. Granted, I am into like I obviously follow a lot of social media, so I do know a lot of things, but I'm not as in touch with a lot of these TikTok dances. I will say that I don't do them, nor do I participate in challenges or anything.
I thought it was Tic Tac for the longest time.
Tic Tac?
Yeah, I thought people were getting really excited about Tic Tacs, and I was like, people have been doing this for a while.
Tic Tac?
Yeah, I thought it was called Tic Tac. Because
you're from Indiana, so I mean, maybe it has a little bit of a tack.
I don't know. But the only people who did it were my sister, and she'd always say it real fast. She'd be like, Tic Tac, Tic Tac.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess because I feel
famous
like
on TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, because like I don't know like how many people like because like here in Pittsburgh like it's TikTok, like they clearly say it, but like I mean I feel like depending on certain accents and stuff like or like the type of area you live, like Pittsburgh, like a lot of my friends don't have like the accent as far as I know. Like
y'all say yins?
Yeah, no, none of us say yins. We say some interesting like there's words that like we don't like because yins is so I feel like not as many people say yins anymore.
I say yins. Even I say yins.
No, you definitely don't.
No. If I listen to Pat McAfee, have you never heard me? My mom.
Well, Pat McAfee says yins.
If I listen to Pat McAfee for like a month straight, it'll start
saying yins.
Yeah, I said it one time, and my mom was like, "Josh, what is yins?" I was like, "That's like a Pittsburgh thing. Why?" I don't even catch it.
Yeah, we don't say yins. I usually try to say like you guys or you all, like I don't say y'all, but like
I say y'all.
I don't say. I mean, I'm not from like anywhere like Indiana or Southern or anything like that, so I don't feel like I have the area to say that. But then again, indeed. Like a lot of people have made fun of my voice because they said, like the one time, like I was on a PlayStation. And I know this is kind of off topic, but because we're kind of on the topic. I was in a PlayStation party one time with a couple of my friends, and like they had some cousins down in Maryland, and I started talking to them. And like when I started talking to them, they started like talking as if they were redneck. Okay. And like they were like mocking me, and like because they thought that I was like a redneck, and like and then like I was thinking about it, I'm like maybe it's like the Pittsburgh accent, because I was like I don't think I sound like I'm from like like because they literally were like like yeah you're gonna go down and get the car.
You don't sound
like,
Southern.
I was like I don't think I sound Southern.
I mean, I don't really think I sound Southern either, but I'm from Indiana, which is apparently, according to you, a very Southern state.
Well, I'm not saying it is, but I mean, like, there are people that like it's definitely a little bit. It's definitely more country than freaking like Pennsylvania is in its own way. I mean, I feel like but
yeah. The Midwest is kind of the South of the North.
Okay. All right.
I know you're a big Juju guy, or used to be at least. Did you see what he posted? Not the clothes, not the thing you sent me.
Valentine's Day thing, right?
Yeah, the Valentine's Day thing.
I saw that. I did see that. Yes.
What did you think of it? Did you see AJ Brown's response?
I also saw AJ Brown's response. I think you posted it on your story today.
What did you think he was? I thought he kind of got shredded by AJ Brown.
I was gonna say I think AJ Brown nailed it. I mean, there's just the problem. The thing is like the Steelers let him go, and then Kansas City was just like, yeah, we'll take you, and then they signed him to a 1-year deal, and I mean, he didn't do that much this year. Like, it's not like he did like anything stellar. It wasn't like when he moved to Kansas City, he had like an all-star like changing of years. Like he had his typical year. I mean, he did a little bit better than he did in Pittsburgh. He was hurt and different things, but it was definitely odd. But I don't think that he should have tweeted that Valentine's Day thing. That was terrible. He should have just basked in the fact that he literally won the Super Bowl. Like,
yeah, he won a Super Bowl. And so for the people that don't know what we're talking about, he tweeted a Valentine's Day meme of the guy of Bradbury. It was
Bradbury, yes.
And it's a picture of Bradbury, and then it says it's like a Valentine's Day card, and it says, "I'll hold you when it matters most." And then he captioned it, "Happy Valentine's Day, everybody." A.J. Brown responded, who I think A.J. Brown's a much better receiver than Juju. And A.J. Brown responded, "First off, congratulations. Y'all deserve it. This is lame. You was on the way out the league before Mahomes resurrected your career on your one-year deal, TikTok boy. He admitted that he grabbed you, but don't act like you're like that or ever was. But congratulations again." And then some like celebration emojis. So, AJ Brown does need to work on his grammar a little bit, but other than that, I thought he flamed him. He called him TikTok boy. That was where I was like, dang.
Well, that's where, I mean, he got his reputation for being a TikTok boy back in Pittsburgh because he started doing the Corvette dance and stuff on the logos. And the problem was we were doing so good that year, and then we were making teams so mad by doing that, like, in a way, we kind of deserved to lose just because of that. Like, I was just like, he needs to stop. And then next thing you know, like, other teams were dancing on our logo doing it. And then, like, Steelers fans were getting mad. And I was like, why are you guys getting mad? Juju's literally doing it. Like, they're just retaliating. At this point.
Was that the year that Von Bell, like, picked him up and then stood over the top of him? I think that was the same year. Because that was the year we beat you with Ryan Finley.
Yeah, it was 2020.
With Tank Commander Finley. Because Burrow got hurt.
Because we only had like 4 losses, I think, that year, like 3 losses. We lost to you, Washington, and then we lost 2 other random games. But I remember we started like 12-0 or 11-0 or something, and like it was like a Philly Eagles story. It was like we shouldn't like we were just winning these like bad games against these teams. We were just a better, like, where we placed in the division, like Philly placed second place in the division, so they versed a bunch of bummy second place teams this year. And Pittsburgh played a bunch of these bummy second place teams or third place teams or wherever the heck they landed in 2019. I don't remember. And like they just ran through all these teams just to lose to Washington. And like, granted, Washington did go on to the playoffs that year. They did lose to Tampa, but like still.
You lost to Taylor Heineke, who is no longer even a starter.
That's just depressing, honestly.
But
and Ryan Finley is also not a starter either, and we lost.
No,
him,
yeah,
so
but Ryan Finley was a backup with the Texans for a
I
while.
I will say anything can happen in divisional games, though.
Yeah, but dude, that game was legendary because here's the thing: we were broken as a fan base. I remember this game. Because this is one of the few games because it was a late night game. I think it was a Sunday night football game. It was either Sunday or Monday night, and my mom was already in bed. And my dad was already in bed. And they could hear me screaming. And they're like, my mom finally came down. She was like, "Josh, what is going on? Are they losing?" I was like, "No, they're winning. They're somehow winning." And my mom was like, who knows very little about football, realized how big of a deal this was. She was like, "This is historical." I was like, okay, I wouldn't go that far, but in the moment, I was like, whatever. She went and woke up my dad and made my dad come and watch the end of the game with us.
Because Ryan Finley was winning the game?
I was like, after I explained to my mom the situation that our third-string quarterback was playing and was beating the Steelers, yeah, that's what happened. That's how it went.
It wasn't, I don't think it was historic, but...
It was historic. That was the beginning of the Bengals dynasty. That's when we consider it to have started.
To come. Right now, the Chiefs dynasty is happening because they've been in the Super Bowl the last 3 or 4 years. So, which is kind of, in some aspects, if anybody's going to beat them, you better beat them. You guys better beat, your team better beat them, man. Because if nobody else can do it, you guys better step up to the plate.
We got the Patrick Mahomes. Burrow and Mahomes are about to be what the NFL wanted Mahomes and Jackson to be. That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
And they wanted the new Manning and Brady. They tried to make it Mahomes and Allen, tried to make it Mahomes and Herbert for some reason, tried to make it Mahomes and Jackson. It's Mahomes and Burrow. Burrow's going to step up. Time for the NFL to admit it.
Hey, I'm not opposed to that. Like I said, just if you're gonna beat the friggin' Chiefs, please do, because at this point,
we've lost them once.
I'm not saying that you haven't, but I was next year, if you guys meet again, this time next year, if you guys play them in hopefully, I hate to say it, I hope you guys, and don't take this the wrong way, I hope you guys go a seed lower next year, just so you can beat them out in the divisional. Because depending on where Kansas City, so if you end up in fourth place or something and Kansas City's first or second or something like that, I hope that you match up in the divisional rather than the AFC championship, because I want you to knock them out and then have a different AFC championship. Because although it was nice this year to see, Bengals Chiefs rematch, I don't want to see that every single year.
I don't want to see it at Arrowhead. That's the thing that worries me.
Yeah.
Arrowhead is loud.
Or vice versa. Maybe Kansas City will be third and Cincinnati will be second, and then they get to play or something.
Right.
So just knock them out of the dang playoffs. I don't want to see them in the Super Bowl again.
So I know that you have to kind of – oh, by the way, on your simulator, who's winning?
Chiefs just tied it up. So it's 14-14 now.
How much time left?
There's a lot of time. We're almost done with it. We're halfway through the third quarter. So yeah, I have 6-minute quarters on. So we're at the 2:56-minute mark of the third quarter, and I think the Chiefs it looks like the Chiefs are about to kick it off to you guys. So
okay, so
it's looking good right now. The Chiefs are 1-2. The Bengals are 1-2, losing to. I
don't know why I celebrated that, but I know we're gonna come back. I know we're gonna come back.
Listen, it doesn't make any sense because
that's what we did this season.
You guys are at the bottom of the division with Steelers right now.
We started 0-2 this season, though.
Well, you guys were 1-2, so you guys started
we're
off
on the up now.
So you were losing 17-10 to Baltimore in the first week, and then you guys went on to beat them 24-17, which I thought was great. It was a great game for Madden. And then week 2, you guys lost to the Vikings 14-9.
Not realistic.
And then you guys lost to Baltimore again, because I did the AFC North. I just wanted to get the first matchups out of the way. So Steelers played the Browns twice already as of week 4, and the Steelers, or not the Steelers, and the Bengals played the Ravens twice, so that I can have just the two divisional, the Ravens playing the Steelers and the Bengals playing the Steelers and the Ravens and all that other stuff later down the road. It's just easier for me to get certain divisional games out of the way.
Madden is scripted.
Maybe I don't know though. Right now, Denver is leading that division right now. They are 3-0.
Madden's scripted. Madden is scripted.
It is ridiculous. But
I alluded to it earlier. I know you have midterms, which boo midterms, but we do both have to do the combine.
Yes,
I want to confirm on the air what we're doing. So I found out that they got rid of the Wonderlic test in 2022, which is basically an IQ test. Do we want to do that or no?
I'm not opposed to it. I mean, I think it would be kind of goofy just to do it.
I took it. I did take a practice test last night.
Of course you did.
You can practice. We never said you can't practice. I've been practicing. I've been training, man.
Have you been doing the cone drills and the vertical jumps?
Yeah, I have been.
Oh, have you?
Been. Yeah.
Have you really? Okay.
Yeah. I got guys who will back me up on this.
You don't need to take this that seriously.
Nah, dude, I want to perform, man. Billy B might be watching.
Maybe.
So, yeah, I got the same score that Brett Favre got, which was not very good.
Okay.
So we'll do the Wonderlic test, the 5-10-5 shuttle test,
the
225-pound bench press test.
I mean, you really want to do that. I barely can lift for my life. I haven't worked out.
Now the YouTubers can see the size difference in us. For reference, I'm 6'2", and I weighed myself today. I weigh 277.4 pounds.
And
Chus is all of...
I am 5'8", 132. So very much, I'm a skinny boy, can't gain weight, eat tons of calories, still can't gain weight, but that is for a different time on why I can't gain weight.
But here's where you're gonna beat me: the 40-yard dash.
Oh, I'm absolutely going to steamroll you in the 40-yard dash.
I bet you got me on that. Shuttle
maybe
run.
the shuttle run, maybe. Well, shuttle run probably. The vertical jump, I guess that could be to be determined because you are taller than me. So depending on how much hops you have, but
I don't know how we're gonna do that, but we'll figure it out.
We'll set that up. I guess I'm gonna go up to you then at some point for it.
Yeah.
Okay. For now,
we got broad jump and 3 cone drill as well.
Okay, well, we can get cones. They sell cones at the dollar store that's down the street.
Yeah, dude, we got this.
So.
We got this.
So
let's just go to the draft. Let's just go to the actual combine.
We didn't get invited this year.
Oh darn. Well,
maybe next year. Maybe we'll get invited.
No,
next year.
I'm a senior.
Oh, you can declare the draft then. You can declare the draft.
I, Josh Butts, am declaring for the 2023 NFL draft.
You should post that. I actually have an extra year because of COVID for some reason.
Wait, don't I too?
Yeah, technically, I guess you would.
I do.
Are you going to take your 5th-year option?
Hold on,
NFL.
I know I got you excited right there. I want to see how I perform in these things, and then we'll decide.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, for date for our listeners and for the people watching us on YouTube right now, it really kind of depends on your schedule now because my midterms pretty much finish up this week. I think I have one test next week.
I have no midterms.
Yeah, I'm lucky you. You're a senior.
I'm pretty sure I have no midterms.
I have the big one tomorrow. My one class, personal branding, does not have a midterm. I took the test last week, and then live entertainment next week, quantitative management tomorrow.
Well, here, I'll trade you. You write my thesis papers and do my portfolio, and I'll take your midterms. How's that sound?
Deal. Absolutely deal. I don't
really.
I don't know half the crap that I'm learning in operations quantitative management. It's open note, but like I missed the class 2 weeks ago because I was sick, and then like the notes were blank, so I've just been trying to wing it and try to figure out what to do for chapters 4 and 6 for the midterm tomorrow. And that's why we're recording so late because I've been trying to figure it out.
I'm not gonna like study for it though. Like your midterms.
Then no.
I'm just gonna write like 2 is the answer for all of them.
No, well, don't do that. I am giving you notes.
Oh, okay. Well, is it open book?
Yeah, it's open note. I mean,
it's open note. I'll figure out something.
Open note, and you do get to use a calculator, but
I got a 22 on the Wonder League test. We're good. That's the same score Brett Favre got, and now
and you know how to answer questions. I mean, it's not multiple choice though, so you don't know how to answer multiple. But nonetheless. So next week is my last week before spring break. So that means that weekend I am relatively free, but other than a Penguin game. So
Penguins.
Go Pens. But other than that,
I didn't mean like we had to get a solid date set. I just meant like what
you
events
just wanted to
we're
figure
doing.
out what events. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have to figure out the date then yet. Me and Josh will talk about that off air. We can but more or less, we can either do it by the end of the month, or we can even shoot to do it closer to the draft. We could kind of like spice it up and just be like, all right, well, we're not doing it now. Let's wait till it's warm when everybody else is doing the combine. That might actually be more fun, to be honest. And I'll have less of a workload because at that point in time, my one class ends at the end of the month because it's only a 1 credit class. So it's done in March. So I'll only have 4 classes instead of 5. So,
well, now everyone knows Chus's college schedule. So
I mean, relative. You guys don't know what time it is, but yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna take the hat off for this. It's gonna go back up on its stand because this end of the show. End of the show. End of the show. I don't fix the hair. Okay. I always do this. I always forget the first thing. Well,
here's my time that I usually do this.
Yeah, this is literally what he does. He mutes his camera and then he leaves. And then if I need him, I can't get him. So, yep, this is exactly what he does every episode. All like 50 episodes he's been in. Well, this is the time I do this. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching YouTube. If you did enjoy this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and comment because that does help us out, helps with the algorithm, especially since we're smaller. Spotify listeners, Apple Podcast listeners, thank you as well. If you want to see us and you haven't seen us yet, go onto the YouTube. And also continue to listen to us on Spotify, share us, subscribe, follow. I forget what the different streaming services say. Email. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you're really mad at Chus for wearing a hat that just says the word Y on it, email us at bullmoosepodcast2@gmail.com.
See, this is why I leave myself muted and I walk away because I know you're always rambling about stuff and I don't like to interfere. But in fairness, this is an NF hat. The artist is named NF and he is potentially dropping a song at the end of the week because he dropped a relative teaser on Monday that was very similar to when he was dropping his album in 2019. So I'm getting excited because I'm a big fan of him, and this is also his T-shirt. So
I can mute you too.
But I'll just
yeah. Okay. They can still see you. Anyway, yeah, the email is bullmoosepodcast2@gmail.com. That's bullmoosepodcast, the number 2@gmail.com. And then Twitter. My Twitter is real. Or no, it's. I do this. My Instagram is real Josh Butts. My Twitter is Josh_Butts_2001. Go ahead and hit me up on there if you want. I've been tweeting at people. They've been tweeting at me, mainly about the Cardinals. For some reason, I said something about Kyler Murray, and some people didn't like it. And then the Instagram is _show. _show. The underscore, someone asked me what that was. It's like the little line, like the little space line. Not the one that's like in the middle of the letters, the one that's at the bottom of the letters. So that's the Instagram. And then if you're not on the YouTube yet, it is No Butts Show, no spaces, NOBUTTSSHOW. And appreciate y'all for listening. Thank you. And tune back in for our next episode, which might be tomorrow. It might be Thursday. Chus's schedule is pretty chaotic. Mine is also somewhat chaotic. So, yeah, thanks for listening. Subscribe, follow, tell your friends. Be a friend, tell a friend. Don't be mean.